We started on this lady last week. Basically did like some of the sketching, did a little bit of refinement, but obviously if you look, there's still some work to do. Her face is like pretty refined. But there is some more blending and things to do on the skin. However, today I'd like to start on some of the black elements. So if you remember last time, we used a lot of yellow in the skin. I'm actually going to pull her off this. This isn't really helping me. This handle is not quite working for me. What I'm going to do, I think, actually, is I'm going to put her on just some blue tack, because I'm just going to paint the front right now. So I'm just going to temporarily stick her to this so I have something to hold on to. Yeah, so we need to paint some of the cape. And to do that, we're mostly going to be working in like blacks and purples. There might be a little bit of blue in there, but we need it pretty gray because Brom. So we're gonna grab some magenta. Carped Senate, hello, welcome. Thanks for the prime. We will grab some of this cold yellow. Hey, Tony, what's up, man? We might need an actual purple also. We're going to need black. We're going to need more black because it's a big area. And let's just grab a purple. Okay. So black, purple, magenta, light yellow. The light yellow is going to be used to desaturate these colors. It's very white anyways, so. We'll grab a brush. So, with the black and the purple, you can see when I mix the black and the purple, it's just going to turn black, like super black. But if I add some of the magenta, it's still going to look basically black, but it is becoming like an extremely dark magenta color or purplish color. But if I take some of the yellow and mix it in, now you can maybe begin to see on the palette that it becomes this like sort of grayed out purple tone, right? You can see the underlying purple to it, but the yellow begins to create this like bit of grayish tonality to it. Makes sense? So we can use that. And the cape is very black. But I'm just going to begin to like sketch in some areas of highlights. Now also towards the bottom here, it's going to get a little bit more blue. The painting itself is extremely dark in these areas. We have to create a little bit more shape. And what I'll probably do is kind of roughly sketch it in And then later I can come back in and apply glazes of this like dark purple with the airbrush to get it closer to a black tone. But I just want enough to begin to like define some of these shapes, pick out the feathers and things. I don't want these like extreme highlights on here. I want to maintain that like that feeling of like it being really dark. Right, so I'll pick out the feathers. Okay. Yeah, they're very dark black. The glazing can be done. Yeah, the glazing absolutely can be done with the brush. It's just a little faster to do it with the airbrush. Just to like, if I want to just apply a filter over top of this very large surface instead of trying to glaze it all at once, I can just do it with the airbrush. The airbrush is just it is just another tool. It saves time. Nothing you can really do with it you can't do with a brush. It does some things a little better. It does a lot of things worse. But it helps to build up some shape or to apply those kind of effects pretty quickly. So I'm going to kind of overdo it. In the artwork, her cape is a little like feathered out towards the end. Right, so it gets a little lighter just on the end to give it this sort of ethereal kind of effect, or this like bloom. So I'm going to do sort of the same thing and then build back into this dark tone. Sometimes you can really make like, if I take just the black and the purple together, you can see on the palette they look the same, but actually on the model, so like if I come up here, you can see that this looks black, but often this like mixture, or what you could call like a tonal black, can end up looking even darker than just a pure black. And I can do the same with a chimera color, or like an ink, for example, that has like extreme that's the word I'm looking for. Well, I'm looking for something else at the same time. Pigmentation to it. Hello, Maso. So something like this, for example, right? This purple has really high pigmentation, and if I put it over top of black, it's just going to make it more black. You can see it's like a halfway in between. Let me thin it out for you so you can see kind of the color, right? It's not quite magenta, it's not quite violet, it's somewhere in between. If I take this and mix it with the black, it's just going to affect the you can make an even darker black. It's like a darker black that has this like sensation of color in it. It can be really hard to see on camera, sadly, but it's an effect that you can pick up in person or in hand. Overrated. Thanks for the sub, man. 10 months. Appreciate it. But yeah, sadly, this can be very difficult to show on camera. So this is why I'm kind of just trying to explain the concept to you, that like this underlying tone to your blacks can increase the richness and depth of your blacks. This is a nice brush. I should stop using this one for a minute while I just like mash paint around. Switch to an older one if I'm just gonna jam it kind of in there. I'm trying to get this like dark purple in between all these feathers where the airbrush may have, the primer may have missed a little. Good practices. Don't like jack up your good brushes for no reason. Use an old brush to do stuff like this. So now, if I take these two and mix them, right, you can see just how gray everything gets. And then I can apply that sort of lighter gray tone to the edge. I can wet blend it in if I want. I don't do a lot of wet blending, but on a huge surface like this, it can be pretty effective. What do I think of the velvet inks? I've only used a few, to be honest. They only sent me a small sample. And I don't use a whole, I use De Laroni. I haven't used Liquitex that much. They're not as glossy as an acrylic ink, like an artist acrylic. I think they have like a really nice flow to them. They're not like matte by any means, but yeah, I could see using them for like working them into my process. I've used some of them. Hello, hi Red Razor, I'm fine, how are you? So here, right, I'm not worried about the details right now. I'm just trying to get kind of a gradient that sort of fades out to that outside. Right. I want the saturation in the blacks to be really high because everything else is like really desaturated. So if there's one part that we can like push the saturation a lot without kind of messing with the overall balance, it's in the blacks. So to you guys, it doesn't look super purple, but to me, it's like in hand, it reads as this like super deep, rich purple black. Like it's very dark. If you've ever used, what is it called? Hexed lichen from Vallejo? That's sort of the feeling, right? That paint is like this ultra dark purple. Hi, Achilles Rain. Did you enjoy part 1? Was it interesting? Was it informative? Was it boring? Right, so we end up with something like that. Tabletop Minions has followed. Hello. Who dat? Who's there? Who's running the Tabletop Minions Twitch channel? Is that you, Adam? Right, so getting it all down in those recesses. How you doing, man? You good? Okay. Just keep working them dark colors. So I kind of did like a sketch before of these kind of feather parts. I'm just going to go right over top of them with this dark purple because I've got to refine this anyways. So I'm fine to just like cover the 5 seconds of work I did before just to really push the depth on this. Thanks, Achilles. We've still got more work to do on the skin, but I want to get like a general sense of the feathers first, just so we can work kind of these two together at the same time. I think it's a good practice to, even if it's just like getting some color on some other elements, it's a good way to just like quickly apply some paint to the two. So I'm going to go back to the turquoise blue. So here we're going to take the black or dark black purple mixture thing, right? And we can add some of the yellow to make it gray. Then we're going to use some of the teal. So this is going to cool it off. Start to bring it closer to that. It's not a big change in color, right? We're not aiming for like I don't want to paint teal, like pure teal directly on this black. I just want to like shift the color, right? So here towards the bottom, where we want to bring in some of this like teal ambience, I'm going to begin to base some of these areas a little bit lighter to give this kind of foggy effect, I guess. Right, so when I start to mix this in, I mean, there's teal in it, but I don't want like pure teal. If I were to go like this, like, do you see how ridiculous that the difference is? Like, I don't want that. I want just the sensation of teal. You're like, your brain picks up on it. Like, you know, that purple down there is a little more teal. Looking forward to the summertime. What you got planned this summer? I'm sure it's still cold up there, huh? Or has it started to warm up a little bit? All right, so we're just picking up a little bit. So that when we zoom out, right, it's got this little bit of fade as the wings come to the bottom. We want this like central area to look really black. Oh man, I'm just getting ready to get busy. I got Dallas this weekend, the US Open, and then I gotta travel to Europe. Summertime's busy. And then I got Las Vegas. There's no relaxing. It's time to go, go, go. I feel like December, January are like my two slowest months. Because then March hits and you got Adepticon, and then it's just kind of go from there. Hi, Koto-chan. I'm assuming you're making calling me Ragnar because of the beard and such. Hi. Oh, well, thanks for the follow also. Tabletop Minions and friend Adrian 1. Hello. I've heard, Koto-chan. I take no offense. I'm pretty hard to offend. Not that that's a challenge. I'm not issuing I'm not issuing a challenge to anyone here. Just saying. Been to Vegas, Schaumburg, Denmark, Canada, and somewhere else I can't remember. I haven't been to Vegas yet, but I'm going to Vegas. Oh yeah, there was a little LVO, that's right. Canada's the only place I'm not going. I was in Denmark in October? Yeah, October of last year. Hanging out with them Danish folk. Those guys, those people. It's pretty nice. It's quite expensive though. So she's got these little tassel things that go on top of her robe here. I'm kind of painting them like they're not even there, because I can always cover back over top. I'd rather just paint around them like they're not there, and then kind of build back up. So the goal here is, as it moves down the figure, that everything kind of lightens up, because she's going to be standing on this like tassel thing. And it has this like pretty strong ambience that kind of moves down. Here, I'll show you. So this is her base. Hi, Lucas. Get in there. Right, so this is her base, and she stands on here, and she's like, my castle. Welcome to my tower. So we want this kind of like blue, almost OSL kind of glow effect coming from below. I'm not going to say OSL because it's not really a light source. It's more like a atmospheric fog than it is really a light source, but you get the idea. You better come to your place in Russia. I don't know if I'm allowed. I don't think travel between the US and Russia is very easy at the moment. So we'll add some more of this teal. Right, so we get this like teal effect coming from underneath. This is another thing you could do pretty easily with the airbrush, where you could, I'm just sketching it right now, but if you wanted to do this like lower kind of atmospheric teal thing, you could kind of paint everything and then sort of just spray a layer from below to sort of show that. So you can see, even though I don't have the exact colors that I used, right, when we started the model, it's really not that important. As long as I get the, like, I create these gray, greens kind of colors from what we've got, and like they're similar enough, right, that like it's pretty easy to color match this sort of tonality, right? Hi, Sean. Now you can really start. I think you can kind of see the purple in the wings now, right? I think it's a little more clear. So the artwork has these feathers just kind of outlined. Here they're like pretty heavily sculpted, but the art is like a little more graphical, where it's like these sort of rows of feathers that are just slightly sticking out. Like you could just sort of see the edges of them, almost like they're like emitting darkness from behind them. Or they're like dark. Like you think of what is it? What's it? The dark saber? You guys know what I'm talking about? The dark saber from the Mandalorian? We almost want to try and paint the feathers like that. That makes sense? So like in between these feathers, there's like some light escaping out from behind them. So you have this little row of light. You could do this a couple of ways. You could like thin it down and kind of apply it like a wash in the recesses to like get it to go back and sort of in between the feathers. And that'll give it that sort of glowy, creepy effect. Scott Fraser, hello? Because I don't think she has actual wings. That's what I'm going with. Like, I don't think this is a real cloak she's actually wearing. I think it's like a... I don't know. Some kind of dark magic cape thing, you know? I'm trying to think of like a good example of that. Where it's like the witch, like, you know, envelops herself like a bat, you know, like kind of how like a vampire will like wreath themselves in bats as they fly away. I kind of imagine her doing the same, but with like raven feathers. Or I'm crazy. But hey, that's just, you know, that's just how I picture it. Really, it doesn't it's not that important. It's all up to your own interpretation. You know, it's your figure. You paint it your way. That's just the sense I get. Right? So, something like that. And obviously this has to be refined a lot, and there's all these little feathers that I could like pick out little details, and but again, I'm just trying to get a rough idea of the background. Or her, not the background, but her cloak. Is there a movie or something? Come on, help me out, guys. We're like, does that happen in Maleficent where she like, you know, turns into a like a bunch of birds or feathers or something? I know I've seen that imagery somewhere. Does Merlin do that in something? I know who. I know what I'm thinking of. Snow White. Does that happen in that? Okay. There's also, he's not Merlin. He's basically Merlin. What is his name? Why am I forgetting his name right now? Not Khadgar in Warcraft. Medivh. Medivh cloak always does that too, like when he shows up, because he turns into a bird. I could just be talking crazy. You guys are like, who? You guys know who Medivh is? You know. He turned into an owl? Was it an owl or a raven? Anyway, I thought, are we talking about Merlin? Merlin had an owl. Oh, you know who else did it? Oh, man, I'm thinking of this this effect like everywhere. This effect keeps showing up, which Merlin is clearly based on. So is Gandalf, but Odin in God of War Ragnarok, if anyone's played that, does the same effect when he shows up. He has like all the like raven feathers swirl around him in a cloak, like when he teleports. See, someone Azazel's got me. Turns out they're all like based on Odin. Every wizard character. The wizard archetype. Okay, sure. Gandalf would be the archetypical character, and Odin is the precursor. Fair. But yeah, they all have that. Sort of symbolism. Big pointy hat guys. Now I'm trying to think of others. Other sort of archetypal characters. I'm sure there's many, many more. All right, so this is a little more warm. So there's some subtle differences here, like when you're moving up, that it's slightly more warm on these upward facing because the light, like we said, is coming in from above, or the that blue is sort of more coming in from below, right? So we can go with a slightly more like reddish tone in the mid-tones here, or in the shadows here on these more upward facing planes. Come on, Tony, you're the author. I know you're in here. You got to know these character archetypes, right? I mean, how many times has the Conan the Barbarian archetype been done? All right, let's grab some of this guy and start doing some of the lights back on the feathers again. So we want it a little more focused upwards. Because we don't want to go too bright with it. I'll be honest, I picked this figure. I'm going to paint it, right? I'm going to try and do a good job. Do my best. But man, I hate painting feathers. I'm drooling here. The trickster thief and the big muscly jock go back to Thor and Loki. Yeah. The funny thing is Loki, or Thor, was like not really presented as that dumb, like in the original. Like he did some dumb stuff in the myths, but he wasn't like stupid. I'm sure the grizzled fishing captain probably goes back to Moby Dick or even further. One of the most misquoted lines in movie history. We're going to need a bigger boat. It's not what he says. He says you're going to need a bigger boat. It's the captain's boat. It's not his. They're chartering it. You're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah, he doesn't say, Luke, I'm your father. He just says, no, I am your father. Other examples of the trickster and Jock? Odysseus and Achilles. Zock. Hello. And Ralphie Rants? Did I miss that one? Weird. Hello, welcome. Thanks for following. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I saw Casablanca as a kid, but I don't remember that line. Play it again, Sam. That's not the line? What's the actual line? Because I don't even remember that line. Her collar is weird. I'm not sure what... I don't know if she's supposed to be... Like, those are supposed to be feathers or fur. I think they're supposed to be, like, the really short feathers. All right. The Emperor doesn't say, well, Horace Lupercal, you truly are the Warhammer 40,000. He doesn't? This is truly the Horus heresy. That's the actual line. I don't know if you guys knew this, but in Morbius, he doesn't actually say it's Morbin time. I watched that movie on a plane and it was waiting the whole time for that line and it never happened. Humphrey Bogart says it's Morbin time. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to spoil Morbius for you. Looking at the painting, her little vest of feathers goes all around and is separate from the cape behind it. It goes, yeah, it's like a separate, well, it goes up and around. So it goes up and around, but it's not connected at the corners. Right? Like there's like one feather that's almost connecting, but not really. Hi, Gary. And Sebastian. Her feather bra. I wouldn't call it a sports bra. I don't think it has the support that a sports bra would have. So we're going to need something to gray this out without darkening it too much. So we need an actual white here. We need white to lighten this and remove some saturation. We need a little bit of this teal just to green it a little bit more green, and lighten it up. We're aiming for this kind of color right here, right? Something around there. Something like that, see? And not bad. Not bad color matching. I may have done this before. This is why I try and tell you guys, I will never tell you the recipe, because it doesn't matter. Because you'll never know the exact amount of paint that I put in that mixture, because I don't know the exact amount. I just make the mixture until it looks right, and then I put it on the model. Okay. Recipes are great for if you need your whole army to like match. And even then, they don't have to be exact, right? Unless you literally stick two figures side by side, like literally like right next to each other. Oftentimes you can't pick up like super subtle differences in color. And even then, like how you could use the exact same paints and like just how thick you apply a layer, like how much coverage that layer has could change a little bit the tonality, right? So it doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to say is, play it again, Sam. Oh. I think she's making like a horrible noise. So there's a couple little things that I'm noticing in a few spots. We're gonna play with some stuff here eventually, to like kind of mess around with the color a little bit. But there's like spots on the artwork where there's like just little subtle touches of red. So we'll probably goof around with that, trying to add that at a certain point. Right now, I'm just trying to get the volumes right, trying to get the value and the volumes like roughly in place, and then we can play around with some more like subtle tonal variation. Hi, Christian. How are you? Just praising the sun over here, you know. Just T-posing. She's asserting dominance. Thanks, Professor Oaks. Speaking of, hey, Ethan. If you guys want to check out the Kickstarter, why isn't it pasting? Hold on. Give me a second. Copy link address. If you want to check out the Kickstarter, that's really long link, but there you go. May 3rd. I don't remember the exact date. I mean, they've been posting it everywhere. I am the wrong person to ask about dates. I barely know what today is. I can remember some weird stuff. Yeah, why did it do like a weird redirect? That's weird. Let me just delete that. Because I copied it from YouTube. Yeah, but I had one that was like from, I don't care. They gave me one with like tracking, whatever. I don't actually care about that stuff. So that they can know how many people came from my stream. So what? Does it? Percent to F. A percent to F is a space in URL encoding. Huh? Did you know that? Did you know that? Percent to F is a space. All right. So yeah, so we got kind of the like purple in to get more of a feeling of how the color scheme's working. And I think I'm gonna take a quick break for a minute, and then when we come back, we'll work on some other stuff. All right, be back in a couple minutes. Hi, I'm back. How's everyone doing? All right, so there's some like general blending and things we need to do to begin to refine some of the skin. So that means we need to slowly work in thinner layers. This is one way. I like to make slow adjustments. Check to see how that's working. Right, so we can soften that transition. What's your guys' favorite part of mini painting, huh? Is it do Do you enjoy the sketching stage? Do you enjoy the refinement stage? Do you enjoy building or... I find building models to be very relaxing. I know some people don't like the satisfaction of being done. Okay. I know some people don't really like actually like constructing models. I find like cleaning them up and prepping them to paint to be like pretty calming. Everyone seems to enjoy, you know, some different aspects, which I think is, you know, fair. When it starts to look like the idea in the sketch pre-planning, yeah. I said I really I tend to get through the sketch pretty fast, and I start to like enjoy this kind of stage where I'm beginning to make like small adjustments and introduce some of the nuance and things like that. One of the parts I don't really enjoy is, like I said, like when painting feathers and things, like these really tiny kind of details that are just like the super precision work of just like these heavily detailed elements. What's your least favorite thing to paint? What's the thing that you're like, ugh? Hey, Jonas. I'm just gonna go Dan. And how you doing? I'm sure everyone's got their element. I'm good. Any details that no one needs? Think Cruel Boys? I'm not super familiar with the Cruel Boys models, honestly. I imagine they have like little talismans and crap all over them. For me, it's a lot of like, there's stuff that's like, like filigree and things can be kind of annoying sometimes. It's often things that I'd rather just, you know, paint myself than need like this really heavily sculpted element. Yeah. When something's got like a million spikes on it, that can be also pretty irritating. See, I find model prep to be very relaxing. So say we're just I'm trying to just outline some of these feathers here. Create some little bits of detail in the background. Who's that? Majestic Wolfster. Hello, welcome. Gap filling. Yeah, I mean, gap filling can be pretty annoying, I guess. It is satisfying when a figure like fits together perfectly. Didn't have to do much work on her, honestly. In terms of gap filling, there was like a tiny amount like on her waist where her waist meets the other part. There was this little bit that I had to fill. Now I sometimes take that with a grain of salt because the company sends it to me and they might be picking out one that's like particularly nice for me. I don't know. I'm not going to speak to if that's the case or not. I cannot say for sure one way or the other, but I didn't really have any issue with her. Right, so we get a little detail in the feathers in the back. You can see them kind of show up here. Now, I'm probably going to tone some of this back and have a few of them stick out a little more because I want I don't want it to be over detailed, right? I just want it a little bit. That's cool, Wolfstar. Writing novel, that's a pretty big endeavor. Wolfster. What is Mindwork Brom? Mindwork is the company that makes the figure. Brom is an artist. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, he was one of the. He did a lot of the artwork for. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Dark Sun, right? I believe it was Dark Sun. Not the Forgotten Realms, the other one. You may call me majestic. How presumptive of you. Eric, do you think that studios such as GW should be giving credit to their sculptors or painters for their box artwork? Personally, I think they should. It would be easy to credit the painters and sculptors. I 100% think they should. Yes. I have heard the reasons they don't, and I think that they're BS. I don't really care if they know it. They call them by their first. It's for their protection, whatever. Yeah. They'll call them by their first name in like White Dwarf or Warhammer community articles or whatever. But even then, they don't say like, hey, I specifically painted this one. They'll say like, I was part of the team that painted this. Yeah, what I think they should do is if there are certain people on the staff that are worried about like, you know, getting online harassed online or whatever, like the guy who wrote the Custodes female story, right? The lady Custodes thing in the codex. Like if they're worried about getting harassed online, you give them the option to not, right? Like I don't want to be credited. Good night, Mark. But I think you should. Credit your artists, credit your writers. It's not that hard. Thanks, Mark. See you later. Right. And I don't think I'm in the... I don't think I'm being, controversial by saying that. Ooh, hot take. Eric thinks that GW should credit their painters and sculptors. And that's why aliases and pseudonyms exist, right? Like if you're a writer and you want to go by, like, you want to easily, one of the GW writers could just go by a different name, right? Yeah, for real, Sebastian. Are you teaching at ReaperCon? No, I'm not. I'll be at Nova. I would love to do both, but sadly they're in the same weekend. And Nova's local to me. It's in my backyard, you know, so it's not in my backyard, but, you know, it's in my state, or used to be. Now it's my state plus this one city away. It's as close to in my state as you can get without actually being in my state. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know why they're like that. And just how it is, you know? Hi, Vivo. If the guys working there really had a problem with it, they would say something. They would do something about it. Right? They could demand. If the whole heavy metal team was like, we demand to be credited. What are they going to do? Fire the whole team? Thanks for the follow, Vivo. I don't think so, Punisher. I don't necessarily think that's true. Because they're not, the heavy metal team aren't really like online personalities. Like Duncan was better. Well, let's be fair. All right. I'm sure Duncan's a nice guy. I've never met him in person. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But amongst the general audience, right? The general consumer or like fan of miniature painting knows him because of the YouTube channel, right? He is the face. They think he's the greatest. They think he's super skilled at whatever, right? Duncan can paint. Eddie can teach and explain things well. I'm sure he's probably a better teacher than a lot of the heavy metal staff, right? Because he's got a lot of experience explaining how to do things and whatever. But he's not as good as a painter as most of those guys, right? The heavy metal team is, you know, they're hired to paint really, really well, right? Duncan does not paint to the heavy metal level. Nothing against Peachy and Luis either. They don't either, and they would very likely tell you that, right? Okay, someone like Max. I mean, Darren doesn't work for the heavy metal team anymore. He's in like the sculpting side, whatever. He's not a painter, a staff painter, but you know, Robin McLeod, Gavin Garza, right? Drew Pallies. These are all guys that work for the heavy metal. They are heavy metal painters. They are on another level compared to Duncan or Luis or Peachy or whoever else came out of that team. And yeah, they don't really get any credit, and they're not public facing figures, right? But trust me, not all of the heavy metal team paints to a competition standard either. Like there are certain models that they spend more time on than others. You can definitely tell. But yeah, it's I don't even know where I was going with this anymore. Oh yeah. No, I don't think that the heavy metal guys have enough of an online persona, even if they did credit them to like, you know, be worried about them becoming a big deal. Yeah, I don't know why Darren had to axe his channel. Yeah, you got Matt, you got Aiden. There's like a whole bunch of guys on the heavy metal team that are all really good painters and Is that still a thing? Is Warhammer Plus a thing? Who does the, and if so, like, I know there was the whole hand thing for a while. Are they still doing those videos? Is it just hands still? I don't know if anybody knows. Feathers, look at all those feathers. So this is so dark that like we don't need to do a whole lot more than that, just because we need to just like create the impression of the feathers in the background. Right? We just got to give them some shape. I don't need to go crazy with like, you know, trying to perfectly render every single feather to an extreme. I just want to get their outlines. Yeah, Warhammer Plus is a thing. Oh, wait. Yeah, they still do the Citadel Masterclass, and honestly don't think the guy doing it is too great a painter. I hate to be rude, but it's not content worth paying for, in my opinion. Don't remember the guy's name. Yeah, Warhammer Plus is a thing. It's the only way to get access to the app. Oh, like the Army Builder app. Also has lore videos that aren't as good as YouTube ones and animations that are hit or miss. Plus you get a free mini once a year. It's not actually free, right? In the mini, like... Well, I mean, I know you have to be subscribed. Do they just send it to you, or do you have to actually like buy the mini? Does it just give you access to purchase the miniature? I don't know if he's still around, but Adam had a really interesting video about the app and like charging for the app. If somebody knows the video I'm talking about, where basically like the app should be free because it's like basically like a cost of doing business thing where you give that people access to that, and like you encourage, like just playing around in the app encourages like list building ideas and could tempt you to buy new figures because you're like, oh, you know, it would go really great in this list if I had a unit of assault terminators or whatever. And then next thing you know, you're buying assault terminators to add to your list. How did you accrue your knowledge of color mixing? It's just experience. I think this is just an experience thing. You train observation, like you're training observation every time you do this, and you get good at just like replicating colors. Right? Just like anything, it's reps. You do it enough times, you experiment, you begin to learn like how certain colors mix. Like if I were to ask you, how do you mix a camo green? You know, what would you say? It might be in like the least amount of colors, right? If you were only to take, you know, in the least amount of paint bottles besides using actual camo green, like how would you make a camo green? Using primary or secondary colors. Right? It's like, this is the thing that you just, oh yeah, orange and green. You mix orange and green together, you get a camo green, right? That's just like, so that's not like something you learn from taking a quiz or anything. You just gain that experience by experimenting, and mix a green and a orange together, and you're like, oh, hey, like what happens if I mix these two together? What do you think I'll get if I mix this magenta and this, right? I bet I get a nice purple if I mix these two. So it's just something you learn. Black Bladder, hello, thank you for following. Thanks, man. Glad you enjoyed the Orc Commando video. Excellent segue into, hey, if anyone has not checked out the YouTube channel and you're new to the stream, you can check out all the past streams on my YouTube channel. It's the same, Eric Schwenson on YouTube. And if you're currently watching this on YouTube, hey, why don't you like and subscribe and leave a comment, huh? Yeah, I'm doing it, guys. I did the thing. I'm not. He's good. No, I'm normally really bad. That's why I did that. King Riri, hello. I'm normally terrible about telling people to do that stuff. I'm more like, hey, do what you want, you know? Watch or don't. What? If you like the video, like the video. I don't know. I mean, whatever. Maybe push the button. That's my normal attitude. Thanks, King. She's coming along. She's getting there. I think I need to do a little bit of the outline around the top. So you know what? We're gonna switch back to the big brush, the big guy. If you like the video, like the video. Whatever, you know. I'm not the boss of you. Actually, if you really want to help the videos, start an argument in the comments. Just get everybody worked up, right? Really get that engagement going. Bold. Christian's got hot takes. Save it for the YouTube, my man. No, the hot take that would really get me going off, it was if you were like, Boris Vallejo is the best fantasy painter of all time. And then I'd be like, what? What is double O brush really? Huh? Double O? Just skip through one of the Citadel masterclasses, mostly just hands except for the intro, but what I found weird was his palette. I assume because GW doesn't sell a wet palette, he couldn't use any other brands. He's using Tupperware and palette paper. Yeah, that's the whole thing. We had to order some for our for the masterclass this weekend, actually. Yeah, they don't. GW does not make a wet palette, interestingly. I guess they consider that like not a hobby essential. I'm actually kind of surprised that they don't have a Citadel branded one. Who knows? Maybe they will at some point. Purge the Fallen. What's wrong with Boris? So here's my problem with Boris. All right, you ready? This one's going to be quick. Boris Vallejo did not paint fantasy characters. He painted bodybuilders and fantasy cosplay. That's it. That's my. I mean, I could get in deeper into, some other stuff, but that's the short of it. How is that different than others? Because what I'm saying is like the characters, Arnie is playing a character. When you're watching the movie, you believe that he is Conan, right? When an actor takes on the role, what makes an actor good is that you don't see them as the actor anymore. You see them as the character. When I look at the paintings of Boris Vallejo, I don't see them as the character. I see them as the model that he's painted to look like a character, right? The way they're posed, like everything about it feels like sterile. It's all sterile and posed. There isn't movement. That's the big difference. All right. Okay. So I'm feeling the wings a little bit, right? There's still some little things we could do to the feathers. We could pop them out a little more. Yep, that's my argument on Boris. Honestly, like some of his older work was much better. Like, I think he was actually a pretty good painter in his earlier career. I mean, I don't think he was Frank. I think he was a dude trying to paint like Frank. And then as he became more of a... I think he just wanted to paint, you know, bodybuilders. Like, you can't look at a Molly Hatchet album cover and a Manowar album cover and be like, yeah, man, the guy doing the Manowar album cover, way better. Think he just got complacent? Yeah, probably. I mean, I feel that way with... I was having a whole conversation about that today. About, like, becoming stagnant or whatever. It's a thing I worry about. Good real talk for a second, you know? I definitely, you know, as you're... This is why I say you got to make some time for personal projects, because I think it's really easy to get stuck in the like production cycle of just painting the same stuff over and over again. You have to step outside of your comfort zone, and you have to like willingly make the effort to improve and get better. And it's a thing that concerns me. I don't want that to happen. I don't want people to look at my work and be like, that's Eric doing the same old thing again. Or like, ooh, he's getting worse. That would be even worse. Well, Eric's kind of phoning it in, right? Like, no, I don't want that. Got to push yourself. I guess maybe you stay in fantasy a lot. I do. I mean, I do. I stay in fantasy a lot because that's what people ask me to paint. And in this scale, like bus and 75 millimeters, fantasy is much more popular than science fiction, which is funny that like science fiction is more popular in miniature war games like Warhammer 40K, Star Wars. I would even consider like superheroes kind of science fiction adjacent. That we don't have a lot of science fiction. Like Neko Galaxy does a lot of cyberpunk themed stuff, you know? And you see the occasional science fiction figure from like Chimera or Scale 75 or whoever, but I would say like the majority Even like Hera and some other companies do science fiction-y figures from time to time. But I think the vast majority of producers stick to fantasy, which is why I paint more fantasy. Would you ever venture into historicals? Yeah, of course. I've painted some historicals, and I'm not like super historic, not like, I'm not interested in painting like Waterloo figures, okay? Like that doesn't really excite me. But like a cowboy or like a samurai or, stuff like that, I could be down. Even like a knight, like a... Do you ever paint on canvas, Eric? No, not really. I mean, I'll do like backgrounds and stuff, but I don't. If I'm gonna do like 2D, I just sketch on my iPad or something. I don't really paint on canvas. Says a lot about who is playing and who is painting. I would dare to say fantasy, as in the name, allows a bit larger degree of creative freedom than science fiction. I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting as like from if you think about Golden Demon, like Warhammer 40K massively. I go to Games Workshop because it's the most popular, right? Whether you like it or not, it is the dominant gaming, like miniatures product in the world, right? Warhammer 40,000 massively outsells Age of Sigmar. Like, massively. Okay? But if you look at the Golden Demon, I would say that the fantasy figures tend to be, at least from the high-end painters, right? Like the really high-level painters at Golden Demon, not the people who are just randomly like, I'm going to enter my Space Marine in Golden Demon, right? The people that like, get commended or finalist or trophy or whatever, that fantasy is quite popular with them, right? So I think amongst the painters that both people just like cool figures. Doesn't really necessarily matter what the subject is as much. And I find that interesting, where from the gaming side it is heavily said that we don't have, more sci-fi stuff. Most of the large-scale science fiction things I've painted are like based on Warhammer, right? Based on 40K. Wasn't it Tactical Marines outsold Warhammer Fantasy? Yes. Just the Tactical Marines. The box of Tactical Marines outsold. That unit by itself. Which is crazy. Then the entire range. Maybe because fantasy is so like ubiquitous with like kind of character archetypes and themes, that it's maybe people feel it's easier to create generic fantasy figures, right? Like, oh yeah, I made an orc. And it's like, man, that kind of reminds me of, Warcraft or Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's an orc's an orc, and I think it's or goblin or whatnot, or maybe it reminds you of Magic the Gathering. I think it's easier to do something generic like that and have appeal than maybe it is to come up with like a unique science fiction design and not just be like, yeah, that looks like Doom Guy or Halo or whatever, right? I mean, Doom Guy and Master Chief already are, pretty dang similar in terms of theme, and they're basically Space Marines. Brutal Burrito, I don't know if that's true. To be fair, there were armies in Warhammer Fantasy that went several editions without a new book or model. So once people had their army, they were set. I think you underestimate people's addiction to plastic crack, where they will either buy models that they don't need just because they look cool, or they will start a new army. Putin's Meat Shack, I think because it involves a lot of hard surface stuff, which you need some imagination for, it can be quite intimidating for most. Yeah, that might be true. No, I think there's... I don't think for sure a lot of people chase the new hotness, right? Like, hey, I want these guys just because they look cool. People are very willing to start a new army. Yeah, you have some diehards who are like, nope, this is my thing, and that's it. I only play orcs or whatever. But orc players are a special breed because they'll buy any kit they want and convert it to be orky. Yeah, I just think that there's... I just find it interesting that the two brands that you don't see as much science fiction. I don't know, maybe it's time for me to start do a line of science fiction themed 75 millimeter scale figures and busts, huh? Sheeny RR, hello, thank you, welcome. Space goblins. Yeah, I'm not too into... What was the name of that game? Shadowrun? That's the like cyberpunk fantasy setting where they're like, you've got like cyberpunk orcs and stuff. That is the one, right? I'm not crazy. Shadowrun. Horror stuff, I guess horror is pretty close, like vampires and things are pretty close to fantasy too. Tends to be more on the fantasy side. That stuff's pretty popular also. I mean, I painted a werewolf in armor not that long ago, so. Yeah, I feel like most of the science fiction models we see painted are based on like intellectual property, like you know, people doing 3D prints of like the Mandalorian and stuff. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. Right? Am I forgetting something? Am I just like spacing out on? I get it, spacing out. That was bad and unintentional. On like sci-fi stuff. So this is a good question. Cyberpunk works. What is sci-fi versus what is cyberpunk? Cyberpunk is a sub genre of science fiction. I'm not even answering that question. Get out of here, troll. What are you doing? It's Star Trek cyberpunk. It's cyberpunk or Star Wars. Dude, Star Wars is barely even science fiction. Star Wars is fantasy in space. Yeah, there you go, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Got me. We're on the same page on that one. they use swords and magic. Well. She's starting to look like something, huh? So one of the big elements here is that on the painting, she has quite this dark shadow. This kind of dark terminator that runs like here. I'm going to try and get this. On her forearm. And then she has this like bounce light that sort of comes up from underneath. Wizard with gun is still the best GW sculpt. Is that like a super old one? I'm not familiar with that one. But I assume that's like a really old dumb sculpt. Are you going to do her base on stream, the tower? Yeah, I probably will. Just, we'll see. That depends on time. I'd like to have her done before contrast, which means we'll have 2 more sessions to finish her, which I think would probably be possible. We could very likely get her done in like 1 more. Because, I'm going to paint the back is just more of the same, right? It's just more black. Thanks, Scott. And thanks for following. So yeah, we'll probably knock that out. But yeah, I'll probably get some work done on her off stream, just like paint the back, because you guys don't need to see me do literally the exact same thing again, because it's just going to be painting the same thing I did on the front. And then we can paint the base and stuff. Paint the base. Do some of the little metallic elements, things like her horns and jewelry. There's really not a whole lot to this model, like in terms of details. It's more just painting anatomy. And I'm just doing a little blending, a little blend on. And then she's got a little rim light. This is going to help separate her arm even more from the background. Or I keep saying background, but what I mean is the wings, right? So we want the angle is like this. We want to get a little rim light like so. See how that helps? That subtle rim light there, and I'll have to blend it, right? But that subtle rim light helps separate her arm from the cape just a little bit more. Like if you go like that, yeah. Oh yeah, Marco Frazzoni. Yeah, he was working on this one. I know. And his is like super colorful. Mine is much more similar to like we're doing like a more of a study of the the actual painting, because I find these interesting. They help learn. Maybe you know, if you really try and understand like why this rim light, why is this little rim light here, why did he do that in the painting? Oh, it's to help because the underside of the arm is shadowed, you know, and that little rim light helps the arm silhouette against the black of the cape, right? So those little understanding these little decision making processes, you can use that like to inform your own painting, right? Like maybe I wouldn't have thought of that, but he did that, so okay, makes sense. What reference am I looking at while painting? I'm looking at the artwork. If you look up Art of Brom Witchwood, if you Google that, it should be the first image result. Brom, Art of Brom Witchwood. Which would which if it would which could which would. You know? Mayak? Hello? Welcome. I've seen you. Oh, sorry, I missed the whole big thing. I've seen you credit Banshee as a mentor. What's the backstory there? I know he's been an incredibly influential figure, but what's your personal history, if you don't mind me asking? I met him at Nova. We did private coaching together. Like when I felt like I was stuck, I was improving a lot, but basically by myself. I really didn't take any classes or anything. Not specifically miniature painting. Like I have some art training, like traditional art training, but the story is basically like I did private coaching with him, and he helped me improve quite a bit and quite fast, I would say. Like he really helped push me past what like I think was a pretty good level to like, you know, where I got to. Within a year, I went from like winning a golden masters at Monty. So I had already had a lot of training. Okay. Like I was already painting. I'd already had a lot of practice at that point. I'm not saying like I just started, but he helped me improve pretty fast. Are you going to do the OSL on the hands? I'm not sure, right? Like, because they only specifically sort of work from one direction. They're very subtle in the artwork. They're not even really OSL. They're sort of just this like soft, it's like this soft silhouette glow around the hands. If I wanted to really do that, I would have to like paint them on the cape, and like if you turned it, it would kind of stop working. So it really only worked from one angle. I think the other thing to do would be to just like really push the light on the hands. Marcus, thanks for following. Welcome. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna skip on trying to do like specifically that kind of glowing hands effect, just because I don't know if it'll read well, right? Like if it was box art only, like if I was only doing this for the box art, I would paint it, I would do it. I would paint it in the background so that it lines up with the photo and like looks cool in the photo. See them? But because this is going to a collector, this isn't even like the actual box art. Like, as far as I know. So I'm doing this for a collector and a stream project, right? I think I'd rather it work really well in hand first and in photo second. So it would be kind of a gimmicky effect in hand. I hope that helps, like my decision making on that. Why I would choose to do it one way over the other. How do you draw the line in terms of finish? Like on the spectrum of super smooth or looser, obviously everyone has different tastes, but curious about your decision making. The areas of important, I mean, smooth is not a finish. Smooth is a texture, okay? So when you say smooth, you're talking about like really well blended, right? What I refer to is loose or rendered, right? That's what you're really, I think that's more what you're asking. Right, smooth refers to like her skin. Yeah, rendered is like a better description. Right, so rendered, right? I want things on her to be like certain parts of her to be really well rendered, right? So like around here, I'm gonna go back off camera and probably like clean up the feathers on her chest, right? Because those are in like this area, this focal area, right? So this is all really important stuff. Her hands, right? And then her torso. Okay, so this I need to be highly rendered. Is this stuff super important? No, not really. In fact, some of it's like hidden behind the castle thing, right? Like, who cares? Right? It's parts of the stone is going to be like more rendered, but some of this stuff less important. Some of this stuff, not really important. It's intentionally, I will intentionally leave it less rendered to like let it be in the background to not draw attention. If I super rendered every single one of these feathers, it would be really distracting. Okay, so like I don't want this really heavy stuff like, or this to be like ultra rendered. It'll just be noise, right? So things like the face, the hands, those are important parts. They get more rendered than others. Where some of this stuff can be slightly looser. Now, looser doesn't mean like unfinished, right? It doesn't just mean like 3 brush strokes. It means like, you know, it just doesn't, I don't need to create as much definition in certain areas. You know, things like that. Loose does not mean sloppy. Render does not necessarily mean smooth. Smooth is a terrible description because I can paint a base coat really smooth. It doesn't make it rendered. And I'm not calling you out. Specifically when I'm saying that, like I don't mean that, like what I mean is like there is a confusion with some people where they assume smooth means blended or like highly rendered, and that's all they care about. Like texture can be highly rendered also. Like if you're doing horse hair or something, right? There you go. Have fun. Paint your figures. Toy soldiers better. Yeah, it's the exact same with 2D. Like, you know, if you've worked in 2D, then you know that like things in the background don't need to be like ultra rendered. They need to match stylistically, right? But that doesn't mean they have to be. And brush work needs to have intention. That's why I say there's a difference between loose and sloppy or lazy. Like you can have loose brush strokes that are fluid and have intention and direction. And then you can have sloppy brush strokes, which are just like, they have no intention. They're just like haphazardly placed. What up? You got an Instagram? I'm going to try this. Kashayatia. Feel free to post a link. Let's see this portrait work. Oh, you're Lead White. Oh, well, welcome. I've seen your Instagram. Hi, Lead White. Yeah. I like your Grand Moff Tarkin. It's really good. His rating. I could tell you had some there's some decision making in that figure that I was like, this person's painted 2D before. Don Leo, hello, welcome. Thanks for the raid. Welcome. Yeah, there's definitely some non-local spot colors like in the face on that Grand Moff Tarkin. That's like, you know, Stu gets it. Mm-hmm. Has anyone read Brom's novels? Are they any good? I didn't even know Brom was a writer, honestly. Was unfamiliar. Oof. All right. I mean, I think we're kind of winding down a little bit here. There's some little stuff that I could continue to push on the feathers. There's probably some like tonal variation I can add in here. What is this? What is this YouTube link? What are you posting, Sebastian? Oh, thanks. You're posting the first video. Yeah, in the first video, we also do like the analysis of the color palette, and there's some other stuff. Do a master study. All right, so the light's coming in this way. The original painting goes pretty subtle on some of this stuff. I'm gonna push it just a little bit more in on a couple feathers just to try and further enhance the definition on some of these areas, because like I said, I want to make this area in particular a little more rendered. Thanks, Don Leo. How are you doing? What were you up to? Yeah, sure. Go right ahead. I don't have any fancy thing to like switch over and look at it on stream, but you are welcome to share. By the way, if anybody wants to join the Discord, the link is down below. You're more than welcome. We have a pretty good group. You can post your work there. So I'm just trying to highlight, just pop a couple highlights on a few of these feathers. I even want some of this like yellowish. You were doing a portrait of a fellow Twitch artist. It's very big. How do I zoom out? That's pretty good, man. That's cool. Like I'm assuming this is digital. Procreate? Doing in Procreate? Yeah, it's definitely digital. Like the bits of blue and the beard and stuff. Did you underpaint with blue? Did I paint? No, I did not sculpt this. This is sculpted by an artist named Layla Khalili? Krita? Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured the sketch was done in blue and then you kind of just left some of the sketch showing through. It's cool. Layla Kaleli, based on a painting by Gerald Brom. The Gerald Brom. Layla's been doing good, yeah. She's been coming out with some nice work. I've got another figure of hers to paint later this year. In fact, another master study to do. Roberto Fieri. Thanks, Diztini. Do you have an Instagram of your work? Yes, I have. It is instagram.com/ here. I'll post the link. Instagram.com/Eric_Swinson. Why is Fury so damn popular with you guys? Honestly, like, I think he's good. I think because he combines like a bit of classical style, like the Caravaggio style, with a bit of like weird modern fantasy. Roberto Fieri, he's an Italian painter. He's an Italian oil painter. I think that's why he's kind of popular. I'm not like a huge fan, honestly. It's St. John the Baptist that he did that's like based on the Caravaggio painting of St. John the Baptist, which is like one of my favorite all-time paintings. To be honest, I would have preferred the Caravaggio version, but I'm happy to do the Roberto version also. I don't know if you know which painting if you're familiar with the painting I'm talking about, but I absolutely love the Caravaggio one. So I might end up combining elements actually of both. For funsies. But that chiaroscuro painting style is not a one of my. It's not really a thing I do, so I think it'll be fun to kind of approach that style. I think it's also a style that's particularly difficult to do in miniatures. and make them work in hand. Because lost edge blacks are very difficult to achieve in miniature, just because of the nature of a three-dimensional sculpt. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to when I say lost edge, basically like it would be like if this figure was on a black background, right? And you wouldn't be able to see that this, like her wings were so black that you like maybe you only see the subtle grays down here, and then you like start to lose the shape of her wings in the background because they're in shadow, and it's like it's all just black. So you get the like impression of the shape of, and maybe it's like this little piece here's highlighted, this little piece here's highlighted, and it gives you the like impression of the shape of the object, but you can't like read a clear outline. That's I find it more gimmick. I think it's like pretty impossible to like really achieve. You can achieve it in photos of figures, but in hand, like it's nearly like just the way light will catch the edge. Like no matter if I painted this pure black, right? The light that I can't control is gonna catch the edge of this form, right? And it's gonna make it stand out from the background. And what often will happen is if you try it, it just ends up looking like elements are unpainted. One of the limits of the medium, the limitations. The relief, yeah, the flats. Yeah, I mean, NMM as a term is like a useful way to describe the thing you're doing, and it's just like a term that has, like, people don't even say non-metallic metal anymore; they just say NMM. It's like that acronym has become associated with the technique, right? Do I have some killer games? So these are not for playing games. This is more for, these are for display. So we don't play games with these. They're too big also. She's quite large. So let's compare. I'll show you a gaming figure. Okay. Where is he? Where's Space Wolf Man? Metallic metal? Yeah, just MM. Eminem. So this, so to compare the scale, right? This is a gaming figure. She's a little bigger, right? So He's one of my gaming guys. My gaming mans. Sure, yeah, you could use her as a, you know, a model if you wanted, but yeah. She's also a little delicate. I don't know how much I would yeah, dude, he's got some serious knife action. When your knife is as big as your arm. He has swords. Okay? Call them machetes. But yeah, so anyways, this is one of my Space Marines. I gotta do a base for him, but I mean that tends to just be the thing, is they tend to exaggerate scale, or exaggerate certain elements on, they're called heroic scale. So things like heads, hands, feet tend to be a little bigger, weapons. All right. I'm going to stop recording for the, what's it called? For the YouTube.